October 14th, 2018. A red 1989 Pontiac Firebird is found abandoned at a rest stop along historic Route 66 in Arizona. The keys are still in the ignition. The driver's side door is open. A half-empty coffee cup sits in the cup holder, still warm. But 27-year-old Michael Dawson is nowhere to be found. His wallet, phone, and overnight bag remain in the car. The Arizona Highway Patrol conducts a search of the surrounding desert. They find nothing, no footprints leading away from the vehicle, no signs of a struggle, no blood. Michael Dawson has simply vanished. 5 years later, on September 3rd, 2023, a mechanic at a junkyard in Kingman, Arizona calls 911. He's found a man locked inside the trunk of a rusted Buick Century slated for crushing. The man is severely malnourished, covered in scars, and barely conscious. His lips are cracked, his skin paper thin. He whispers only one sentence before losing consciousness. He keeps us in the trunks until we're ready. That man is Michael Dawson. But what happened during those 5 years and who was keeping him, you will find out in this video. Michael Dawson was 27 years old when he disappeared, working as an insurance adjuster in Phoenix. He was driving to Las Vegas for a weekend trip to meet friends. According to cell phone records, he left Phoenix at 5:47 a.m. on Sunday, October 14th, 2018. A gas station surveillance camera captured him refueling his red Pontiac Firebird at 7:23 a.m. in Wickenburg, Arizona. The footage shows him wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. He purchases a large coffee and a breakfast sandwich. The cashier later told investigators that Michael seemed totally normal, maybe a little tired. At 8:41 a.m., Michael sends a text message to his friend in Las Vegas. Making good time, should be there by noon. This is his last communication. His cell phone pings a tower near Kingman, Arizona at 9:17 a.m., then goes silent. Traffic cameras capture his Pontiac on Route 66 at 9:32 a.m. heading west. The next documented sighting is the abandoned vehicle at the Sitgreaves Pass rest stop, discovered by a state trooper at 11:05 a.m. The timing creates a narrow window. In approximately 90 minutes, Michael Dawson vanished. The trooper who found the vehicle, Officer Teresa Montoya, noted several details in her report. The engine was off but warm. The keys remained in the ignition. Michael's wallet contained $87 in cash, his credit cards, and driver's license. His overnight bag was in the passenger seat, unpacked. His phone was plugged into the car charger. A paper map of Route 66 was unfolded on the dashboard with a highlighted route. The coffee cup in the cup holder was still warm enough that condensation had formed on its lid. Officer Montoya initially suspected that Michael had simply stepped away to use the restroom or view the scenic overlook. The rest stop offers panoramic views of the Black Mountains. After waiting 30 minutes with no sign of him, she radioed for assistance. By noon, 3 additional officers had arrived and begun searching the immediate area. They found no indication of where Michael might have gone. By 2 p.m., Michael's disappearance was classified as suspicious. His family was notified. His friends in Las Vegas confirmed they were expecting him that day. Everyone described Michael as reliable and methodical. There was no history of mental health issues, no recent problems at work, no relationship difficulties. The investigation expanded. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging searched the surrounding terrain. Ground teams with dogs covered the rest stop and adjacent trails. Desert search and rescue teams combed the area for 3 days. The search revealed few clues. A single partial footprint matching Michael's shoe size was found approximately 20 feet from his vehicle, heading toward the parking lot rather than into the desert. Tire marks indicated another vehicle had parked next to Michael's Pontiac and then left. Security cameras at the rest stop had been non-functional for months due to budget cuts. No other witnesses reported seeing Michael or any suspicious activity that morning. We're treating this as a possible abduction, Detective Carlos Ramirez of the Arizona Department of Public Safety told reporters on October 17th. The evidence suggests Mr. Dawson did not leave the area voluntarily. The investigation focused on several possibilities: carjacking gone wrong, mistaken identity, random violence. The fact that the vehicle was left behind with valuables inside suggested this wasn't a simple robbery. Over the following weeks, investigators interviewed every known sex offender and violent criminal in a 100-mile radius. They checked hospital admissions and unidentified remains. They spoke with truckers who frequented Route 66, tourists who had passed through the area, and employees at nearby businesses. Digital forensics teams analyzed Michael's phone records, social media accounts, email, and credit history. Nothing yielded any substantial leads. The investigation stalled. By December 2018, the active search was scaled back. Michael Dawson's case became one of approximately 600,000 people who go missing in the United States each year. His parents established a foundation to keep his case in the public eye. They appeared on true crime television shows. They maintained a website with updates and a reward offer. They hired private investigators. Each effort brought tips, but none led to Michael. His case file remained open, but inactive. Years passed. His parents divorced, citing the stress of their son's disappearance. His friends moved away. The red Pontiac was eventually released from evidence and sold at auction. The Foundation's activity slowed. Michael Dawson was becoming a memory, a cautionary tale about the dangers of solo travel. Then came September 3rd, 2023. Ramon Vasquez had been working at Desert Auto Salvage in Kingman, Arizona for 15 years. His job was to prepare vehicles for crushing, removing batteries, draining fluids, checking for valuables left behind. That morning, he was processing a 1997 Buick Century that had been towed in after sitting abandoned for months on a rural property outside town. "Something didn't feel right about that car," Vasquez later testified. "It was dirty, real dirty, but the trunk had these scratch marks around the lock, like someone tried to open it from inside." When Vasquez popped the trunk, he was hit with a powerful smell: human waste, sweat, and something he couldn't identify. Then he saw the man. He was curled up like a baby, so skinny I could see every bone. His skin was gray. Not like a dead person, but like someone who hasn't seen the sun in years. His eyes were open, but not really seeing. I thought he was dead until he moved his hand. Vasquez called 911 at 10:23 a.m. The recording captures his panic. "There's a man in the trunk. He's alive but barely breathing. Please hurry." Emergency services arrived 8 minutes later. The paramedics found a severely malnourished male, approximately 35 years old. He was unresponsive except for eye movement and slight hand tremors. They noted ligature marks on his wrists and ankles, pressure sores on his back and hips, and numerous partially healed wounds consistent with long-term restraint. As they transferred him to a gurney, the man briefly regained consciousness. According to paramedic Jennifer Orozco, he grabbed her wrist and whispered, "He keeps us in the trunks until we're ready." Then he lost consciousness again. He carried no identification. His fingerprints were run through the database at Kingman Regional Medical Center while doctors worked to stabilize him. At 4:17 p.m., the hospital notified the Kingman Police Department that they had identified the patient as Michael Dawson. Missing person case MATS AZ 11442018MD. Detective Marcus Holbrook was assigned to the case. He arrived at the hospital at 5:05 p.m. and found Michael in the intensive care unit, sedated and on a ventilator. The medical report detailed Michael's condition in clinical terms. He weighed 97 pounds, down from his reported weight of 175 when he disappeared. He suffered from severe malnutrition, dehydration, muscle atrophy, and multiple vitamin deficiencies. His skin showed numerous scars in various stages of healing. There were burn marks on his torso that appeared deliberate in their placement. His teeth were in poor condition, with several missing or broken. His fingernails were long and jagged, with dried blood underneath, consistent with attempting to claw his way out of confinement. Most concerning to the medical team was the evidence of long-term psychological trauma. Even while sedated, Michael exhibited a startled response to certain sounds, particularly car doors closing and keys jangling. He would curl into a fetal position when touched without warning. The doctors noted these as signs of conditioned fear responses. Michael remained in critical condition for 10 days. During this time, Detective Holbrook gathered evidence from the Buick Century. The vehicle had been reported abandoned on a foreclosed property outside Kingman. It had no license plates and a partially obscured VIN. The trunk contained a plastic bottle with a small amount of water, a bucket with human waste, and a thin foam pad saturated with sweat and bodily fluids. The interior of the trunk lid was marked with scratch marks and smeared blood. Forensic analysis found skin and blood samples matching Michael's DNA. The investigation faced a critical question: had Michael been in that trunk for the entire 5 years? The medical evidence suggested otherwise. While he showed signs of long-term confinement, certain indicators pointed to periods of mobility. His muscle atrophy, while severe, wasn't consistent with complete immobility for 5 years. Some of his wounds were recent, others older, and healed. His vitamin D deficiency indicated minimal sun exposure, but not complete absence of light for 5 years. On September 14th, Michael regained consciousness. His first coherent words to the nurse were, "Is he gone? Did you check if he's gone?" When Detective Holbrook interviewed him the following day, Michael was disoriented and fearful. The transcript notes his difficulty focusing and frequent pauses. The interview lasted only 18 minutes before doctors ended it due to Michael's elevated heart rate and signs of acute distress. During this brief conversation, Michael provided his first account of what happened. According to the transcript, he claimed he had stopped at the rest area to stretch his legs and use the restroom. As he was returning to his car, a man approached asking for help with a flat tire. Michael followed him to a blue pickup truck in the parking lot. He remembered being struck from behind, then waking up in darkness. "I think I was in a basement," Michael stated. "It was dark. There were others sometimes. I heard them. He would move us. Different cars, different trunks. I don't know how long." When asked about his captor, Michael became agitated. "Don't say his name. He'll hear you. He always hears." The interview ended when Michael began hyperventilating. Over the next several weeks, Michael's physical condition improved gradually. His psychological state remained fragile. He exhibited symptoms consistent with severe PTSD, including flashbacks, hypervigilance, and dissociative episodes. During therapeutic sessions, he revealed more details about his captivity, though his timeline remained confused. According to notes from his therapy sessions, Michael described being held primarily in vehicle trunks. "He collects us," Michael stated, "keeps us in the trunks, moves us around so no one finds us." He indicated that he was occasionally taken to a building, a garage or warehouse, where he was cleaned, fed, and sometimes prepared for the next stage. Michael couldn't elaborate on what this meant, becoming non-responsive when pressed for details. A breakthrough came on October 2nd, when Michael was able to provide a partial description of his captor, a white male, approximately 50-60 years old, with a gray beard and a distinctive scar across his right forearm. He recalled the man speaking about saving his collection and preparing them for the road. Michael reported that the man called himself the Collector and insisted his captives refer to him by this name. The investigation expanded. Detective Holbrook coordinated with the FBI's Violent Crimes Unit. They searched missing persons reports for the southwestern United States, focusing on disappearances along major highways. They identified 17 cases with similarities to Michael's: travelers who vanished from rest stops, gas stations, or scenic overlooks, most along Route 66 or Interstate 40, spanning from California to New Mexico. As the investigation progressed, inconsistencies in Michael's account emerged. Medical evidence contradicted some aspects of his story. His pattern of injuries suggested he had been moved frequently, but some wounds couldn't have been sustained in a vehicle trunk. Soil samples from his skin and clothing matched multiple geographic locations across Arizona and Nevada. Most significantly, isotope analysis of his hair, which grows at a predictable rate and retains chemical markers from diet and environment, indicated he had been in at least 3 distinct locations over the past 5 years. When confronted with these inconsistencies, Michael became withdrawn. "I can't tell you everything," he said during an interview on October 11th. "He'll kill them if I talk, the others. They're still out there, still in the trunks." This statement shifted the investigation's urgency. If others remained captive, time was critical. The FBI assembled a task force focusing on the potential serial abduction case. They re-examined every unsolved disappearance along the Route 66 corridor. They set up a confidential tip line and released a composite sketch of the collector based on Michael's description. On October 15th, Michael had a severe panic attack after seeing a news report about his case on the hospital television. When sedated, he was found clutching a small piece of paper hidden in his hospital gown. The note read, "Tell them what happened to you in the desert, and they all die. I'm watching." The handwriting didn't match Michael's. Hospital security footage showed no unauthorized visitors to his room. The note's paper matched the type used in the hospital's administrative offices. This development raised troubling questions. Was Michael still in contact with his captor? Was someone inside the hospital threatening him? Or was this evidence of a psychological break? Michael creating the note himself as a manifestation of continued trauma. Detective Holbrook ordered 24-hour police protection for Michael's room and a complete review of hospital staff. During this period, investigators began to consider Michael himself as a potential suspect. The medical evidence wasn't entirely consistent with his story. Some aspects of his account changed between tellings. The mysterious note could have been self-created. The case file notes Detective Holbrook's internal suspicion, the possibility that Michael's disappearance and current condition might involve self-harm, mental illness, or even intentional deception. On October 20th, a forensic interview specialist from the FBI conducted a 6-hour session with Michael. Using specialized techniques for trauma survivors, she was able to help Michael construct a more coherent timeline. The transcript reveals a more disturbing story than he had previously shared. According to this account, Michael had indeed been approached at the rest stop by a man requesting help with his vehicle. After being rendered unconscious, he awoke in the trunk of a car. For what he estimated was several months, he was moved between different vehicles, always trunks, with minimal food and water. Occasionally, he was taken to a building he described as a garage with rooms in the back. There, he would be cleaned up and evaluated. There were others, Michael stated, I heard them. Sometimes in other trunks, sometimes in other rooms. He would talk about his collection. Said we were special. Said the road had chosen us. Michael described being forced to watch as the man, who insisted on being called the Roadmaster, tortured other captives. He made us watch so we would know what happened if we tried to escape. The most significant revelation came when Michael described the preparation process. He would choose one of us to prepare, said they were ready for the next stage. They would get cleaned up, fed better for a few days. Then he would take them somewhere. They never came back. When asked if he had been prepared, Michael became distressed. Almost. I was next. He was getting me ready, had me in the special room for 3 days. Then something happened. He was angry. Put me back in a trunk. That's the last thing I remember before the junkyard. The FBI analyst noted that Michael exhibited signs of Stockholm syndrome and traumatic bonding with his captor. His fear appeared genuine. and his physical condition corroborated long-term captivity. The psychological assessment concluded that while some details might be distorted by trauma, the core of Michael's account was credible. The investigation gained momentum on October 25th, when a highway maintenance worker came forward after seeing the composite sketch. He reported encountering a man matching the description 2 years earlier, changing a flat tire on a blue pickup truck near Oatman, Arizona. He remembered the man because of a collection of unusual bumper stickers on his vehicle, including one that read, "The road provides." 3 days later, a waitress from a diner in Needles, California recognized the sketch. She described a regular customer who matched the description, including the distinctive arm scar. The man always ordered the same meal, meatloaf with mashed potatoes, and often spoke about collecting things from his travels on Route 66. He typically paid in cash, but had once used a credit card. The transaction record identified him as Howard Keene, 58. Database searches revealed Howard Keene had a criminal record, a conviction for aggravated assault in 1997, and an arrest, charges later dropped, for false imprisonment in 2003. His last known address was in Kingman, Arizona, but he hadn't filed taxes or updated his driver's license in 7 years. The property associated with him, a small house with a detached garage on 5 acres outside Kingman, had been sold at a tax auction 4 years earlier. On November 1st, FBI agents located a storage unit in Kingman registered to Howard Keene. The payment history showed monthly automatic payments from a checking account. The most recent payment had processed 2 weeks earlier. A judge approved an emergency search warrant based on exigent circumstances, the possibility of captives being held inside. The storage unit contained no captives, but yielded critical evidence. Inside were boxes of personal belongings from at least 7 different individuals. Wallets, watches, jewelry, and clothing had been carefully cataloged and labeled with dates and locations. A journal detailed acquisitions along Route 66, with entries spanning more than a decade. Most disturbing were the photographs, Polaroids showing people in various stages of captivity, including several images of Michael Dawson. The journal entries provided insight into Keene's methodology and psychology. He described himself as the Roadmaster and the Keeper of the Collection. He wrote about rescuing travelers from mundane lives and preparing them for transcendence on the Mother Road. The entries became increasingly delusional over time, referring to Route 66 as a sentient entity that demanded tributes and selected worthy travelers for his collection. The final entry, dated August 27, 2023, just days before Michael was found, read, "The authorities are closing in. Must relocate the collection. M is almost ready, but will have to wait. The others must be moved first. The road will provide new shelters." Based on this evidence, a multi-state manhunt for Howard Keene began. His photograph was distributed to law enforcement agencies across the Southwest. Border Patrol was alerted. Highway checkpoints were established on major routes out of Arizona. The break came on November 4th, when a license plate reader in Barstow, California, flagged a vehicle registered to a known associate of Keene, his cousin, Gerald Moss. Local police located the vehicle at a motel just off Interstate 40. FBI tactical teams surrounded the building at 2:17 a.m. After attempts to establish communication failed, they entered the room at 3:04 a.m. Howard Keene was found dead on the bed from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The estimated time of death was 12-18 hours earlier. A handwritten note was recovered from the scene. It read only, "The collection is safe. The road protects its own." In Keene's vehicle, agents found maps marking locations across Arizona, Nevada, and California. Each marked spot was annotated with initials and dates. Forensic teams were dispatched to these locations. Over the next 2 weeks, they made a series of grim discoveries. 5 vehicles were found at various remote locations: abandoned quarries, foreclosed properties, and isolated desert areas. 3 contained human remains in their trunks. 2 held survivors, a 42-year-old woman who had disappeared from a gas station in Nevada 2 years earlier, and a 31-year-old man who had vanished from a scenic overlook in California 8 months ago. Both were in similar condition to Michael, malnourished, traumatized, and showing signs of long-term confinement. The full scope of Keene's crimes emerged through forensic analysis. DNA evidence linked him to at least 12 abductions over a 15-year period. His methodology was consistent, targeting solo travelers along Route 66 and Interstate 40, approaching them with requests for assistance, rendering them unconscious, and transporting them to various holding locations. The collection was kept mobile, stored primarily in vehicle trunks that were relocated regularly to avoid detection. The most disturbing aspect of the case remained unexplained. What happened to those who were prepared for the next stage? Excavations at Keene's former property revealed human remains buried in the desert behind the garage. Forensic anthropologists identified 8 individuals, all showing signs of ritualistic killing, specific patterns of wounds that corresponded to locations along the historic Route 66. Michael Dawson remained hospitalized for 3 months. His physical recovery progressed steadily, but his psychological healing proved more challenging. When shown photographs of Howard Keene after his death, Michael exhibited a complex reaction, relief mixed with what his therapist described as grief-like symptoms, consistent with traumatic bonding. In his final police interview before being released to his parents' care, Michael provided insight into how close he had come to becoming another buried victim. He said, "I was special, that I'd traveled the road the right way, with respect. He was getting me ready." When asked what getting ready entailed, Michael's response was recorded verbatim: cleansing, fasting, lessons about the road. He would tell me about all 66 stops, made me memorize them. Said when I could recite them perfectly, I would be ready to become one with the road. The investigation concluded that Michael had likely been days away from being killed when something disrupted Keene's plan, possibly the increased police presence after the storage unit discovery. In a moment of panic, Keene had abandoned Michael in the Buick at the property where it was later towed from, inadvertently saving his life. The survivors from Keene's collection formed a support group. They shared similar experiences of captivity and preparation. All described being moved frequently, kept primarily in vehicle trunks, and subjected to Keene's delusional teachings about Route 66. Each had been told they were chosen by the road itself. Each had witnessed others being prepared and then disappearing. Michael Dawson returned to Phoenix with his parents in February 2024. According to his medical records, he continued to struggle with severe PTSD, anxiety, and intermittent dissociative episodes. He could not drive or ride in a vehicle without experiencing panic attacks. He refused to sleep in a room with a closed door. He maintained a strict eating schedule, becoming agitated if meals were delayed even slightly, a behavior pattern his therapist linked to the irregular feeding schedule during his captivity. His parents reported that he would sometimes recite the names of towns along Route 66 in his sleep: Williams, Seligman, Peach Springs, Hackberry, Valentine, the litany Keene had forced him to memorize as part of his preparation. When asked about this behavior, Michael had no recollection of it. His medical file noted that this type of unconscious recitation was consistent with severe trauma conditioning. In May 2024, Michael agreed to revisit the site where his car had been found in 2018. The FBI hoped this controlled exposure might trigger additional memories that could help close remaining gaps in the case. The visit was documented on video. The recording shows Michael becoming increasingly agitated as they approach the rest stop. When they reach the parking area, he refuses to exit the vehicle. "He's still here," Michael says on the recording. Not him, but what he put in me, what he put in all of us. The road. It watches through us now. This statement concerned investigators. Psychological evaluation indicated Michael was not experiencing psychosis, but rather expressing the lasting impact of Keene's indoctrination. The report noted that prolonged exposure to consistent delusional frameworks can create persistent thought patterns in victims, even when they intellectually recognize the beliefs as false. The case officially closed with Howard Keene's death, but questions remained. His journal referenced partners on the road who shared his appreciation for the collection. Investigation into these potential accomplices continued, though no concrete evidence of their involvement was found. Some investigators speculated these references were part of Keene's delusional framework rather than indications of actual co-conspirators. The survivors provided differing accounts of how many people they had encountered during their captivity. Michael recalled at least 15 others over his 5 years. The woman rescued from Nevada believed there were more than 20. The man from California could only confirm seeing 3 other captives. These discrepancies were attributed to the compartmentalized nature of the collection and the psychological effects of trauma and isolation. Forensic accounting traced Keene's movements through sporadic financial activity. Records showed he had traveled extensively along Route 66, making small purchases at significant historic locations. He had no steady employment but received regular payments from an insurance policy following a workplace injury in 2005. This modest income, combined with an apparent minimalist lifestyle focused on his collection, had sustained his activities for years without raising financial red flags. The case revealed troubling gaps in missing persons investigations. Many of Keene's victims had disappeared in different jurisdictions. Without a centralized database effectively tracking disappearances across state lines, the pattern had gone undetected for years. The FBI established a new protocol for coordinating information about disappearances along interstate highways, informally known as the Roadmaster Protocol. Michael Dawson's recovery continued to progress in small increments. By December 2024, he had gained back most of his weight and could sleep through most nights without nightmares. He began working from home as a data entry specialist, though he still avoided public places and would not travel alone. His therapist noted that he had stopped reciting the Route 66 towns in his sleep, but still exhibited hypervigilance around vehicles, especially those with trunks. In his last documented interview, conducted for the investigation's final report in March 2025, Michael reflected on his experience with a clarity that surprised investigators. "I understand now what he was doing," the transcript records him saying. He believed Route 66 was alive somehow, that it needed sacrifices to stay powerful. He thought he was feeding the road with us, keeping it alive even though it's not the main highway anymore. When asked how he managed to survive for 5 years under such conditions, Michael's response was noted verbatim in the report. "I became what he needed me to be. I learned the towns. I recited the history. I pretended to feel the road speaking through me. You do what you have to do." The final psychiatric evaluation, dated April 2025, described Michael's condition as stabilized, but permanently altered. The report noted that while he had developed effective coping mechanisms and could function in a limited capacity, he would likely never fully recover from the psychological effects of his captivity. The subject exhibits classic signs of complex PTSD with specific phobic responses to enclosed spaces, vehicles, and highway sounds. He maintains a rigid daily routine as a security measure. When asked about future plans, he indicates no desire to travel beyond his immediate neighborhood. Today, Michael Dawson lives in a small apartment near his parents' home in Phoenix. According to his most recent medical records, he still cannot drive and becomes distressed in vehicles during turns or stops that last more than a few minutes. He works remotely and receives regular therapy. He has declined all media interviews and public appearances. The sites where Keene's victims were buried have been marked with small memorial stones. The families of the identified victims held a joint remembrance service in September 2024, on the one-year anniversary of Michael's discovery. Michael did not attend. His father told reporters his son was physically safer, but still finding his way back mentally. Howard Keene's body remains unclaimed in the San Bernardino County morgue. His journals, photographs, and collection of belongings are stored in FBI evidence, still being analyzed for connections to other unsolved disappearances along America's highways. The full extent of his crimes may never be known. The investigation file on the case, now designated FBI VCU 2023 Route 66, contains this final observation from the lead profiler. Keene represents a unique category of organized, mission-oriented offender whose delusional framework was built around an existing cultural touchstone, in this case the mystique of Route 66. His methodology of mobile captivity exploited gaps in cross-jurisdictional investigation and the transient nature of highway travelers. The survivors exhibit symptoms consistent with prolonged captivity and indoctrination, including persistent thought intrusions related to their captor's belief system. Subject Dawson's physical recovery exceeds expectations, but his psychological integration remains fragmented. He checks his closet doors multiple times before sleeping. During his final evaluation, he requested the examiner's car keys be placed where he could see them throughout the interview. For the families of those who never returned from their journeys on Route 66, questions linger. For the survivors like Michael Dawson, the road continues, not as the adventure they once sought, but as a psychological geography they must navigate daily. The file notes that Michael still keeps a map of Route 66 folded in his wallet. When asked why by his therapist, his recorded response was simple: "So I know where not to go."